You know, I don't know how many of y'all listen to speaker tapes, but there's nothing worse than a guy who stands there and introduces a guy for 10 minutes. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it real short and sweet, and just say that I could probably talk for an hour about this guy anyway, and I'm really honored for him to be here today with us. And I'd like y'all to welcome Chris.
That was good. They usually introduce me as, some of you are going to hate this guy, and this sets me up, you know. Some of you are going to hate me. That's okay. My name's Chris Raymer. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'm grateful to be here. I took my last drink November 13th, 1987, and I am still pretty amazed at that. I'm one of those cats that could not drink, and what a great place to be here. I apologize about the cold. I got some little boogies in here I can't seem to get rid of, so you guys bear with me. It's not because I'm overly emotional I carry this around. I am a shy, sensitive alcoholic, albeit, but this club is gorgeous. You guys do it up right here in Oklahoma. Are all the clubs in Oklahoma this nice? Yeah, right, probably. He kept saying, coming over, kept saying, well, you know, he's describing this very humble little place, and this is like the Taj Mahal. You know, it's like some of the holes that I'd go to meetings at. You know, we have a place in Ingram where I go to meetings called the Outpost. It used to be an old beer joint called the Outpost, and when we took it over, the rent over the deal, it's still the Outpost, and it still looks like an old beat up bar. You know, that's unbelievable. This is nice. I got to thank everybody that had anything to do with getting me up here. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, and I guarantee you, I know it takes a chunk of change to pay airfare in a motel room, and I appreciate it. There's no gurus in AA, and none of us are better than anybody else. And I'm fortunate that I get a chance to travel around a lot. I don't like to do this. I love meeting you guys and getting to see you and talk to you. I'm not a real big fan of speaking. I'll just be honest with you. I'm pretty good at it. I've done it for a few years, but I know that what I'm going to say tonight, I'm going to talk for about an hour. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story, and we'll talk a little bit about sponsorship tonight, and talk a little bit about Alcoholics Anonymous as I perceive it, and then we'll go have some dinner, which I know all of y'all came for anyway. What the heck? Let's just get straight. Chicken will bring them in out of the cold anytime, and then we're going to come back and I'll talk for another hour or so along the same lines on sponsorship, and that's going to be the main focus of this. Real quick before I get started in this, I want to make sure that everybody kind of understands where I'm coming from. Anytime I speak from the podium, I want it real clear that I don't represent Alcoholics Anonymous in any way, and I work for a treatment center down in the Hill Country. I do clerical work for that treatment center, and I want to make sure that y'all understand that I'm not here representing that treatment center. Lord knows they would die if they heard me speak from the podium up here. Some of the things I say, I've got my own opinion about treatment centers. I love treatment centers. I believe they've done a lot of good. I also believe they've done a lot of damage to our fellowships. There's a lot of people talking about stuff out there that they don't know nothing about. And some of y'all are shaking your heads. I got 4 or 5 friends in the audience anyway. So I think there's some great ones out there, and I think there's some that don't do a very good job at all other than detoxing us. So, but I'm not here representing that company. I want to mention this, that you know, I'm sitting in the hotel room when we're coming over, and after they drop me off, and I'm sitting there, you know, talking to God like I always do before I speak, and you know, and there's one little voice over here on this side of my shoulder saying, Chris, just go give them a nice little hey talk and hug their little necks and eat their chicken and get back on a plane and go back to Texas. And then and there's another little voice over there that says, Chris, but you need to share the message that you believe so strongly in. And that's what I'm committed. If I don't share it, then I won't sleep tonight. And if I do share it, some of y'all aren't going to sleep tonight. Well, what can I say? What am I going to do? I'm caught between a rock and a hard spot here. But I plan on sleeping tonight. So that's the cool thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is that we get to share kind of what's on our mind, and we get. I mean, you know, there's the book kind of guides us what we're supposed to do. We got the steps and the traditions and the concepts that kind of keep us headed in the right direction. And anything you can't reconcile with a big book, you know, let it go in one ear out the other if you want to. I need to make this point very clear. Anything I say up here, some of this stuff I'm going to be sharing, I'm going to share it as I perceive things. I'm looking at Alcoholics Anonymous from the perspective of a chronic relapser. That's me. I'm a Catholic that tried for years to get sober in therapy, in church, in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a Catholic that works around the treatment center business and have for 10 years, and I've watched thousands of alcoholics and addicts come into that hospital and leave that hospital, and the one common denominator with all of them, alcoholics and addicts alike, is they most of them, 90% of them, have had very poor experiences in our fellowship. And we've got this I mean, we've got some problems in our fellowship, and most of this stuff can be traced to poor sponsorship. We've stopped relying on a very clear message out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and started relying on what we call word of mouth. And that's why we got the book to begin with, was so that we would stop doing that. You with us? I mean, there's a lot of things out there that sound good, but when you put them in practice, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And that's what I want to talk about. So if some of the stuff I say tonight is a bit controversial for you and it grinds you a little bit, you know, I'll be here, like I said, all evening, and you're more than welcome to come visit. I got some cards down in my little briefcase over there, and I'll be more than glad to give you one of those cards, and you can call me next week. It's an 800 number, and there's an email address on there. You can call and tell me what a worthless, you know what I am, you know. So I was thinking coming over here from the airport when Chris picked me up, you know, I was thinking, you know, I used to drink in Oklahoma. You know, I used to do a lot of drinking up there in Wichita Falls and Vernon, Texas, and we'd drive across, get drunk, get all tanked up, and come back and show them Okie boys what it was all about. You know, and some of the worst butt beatings I ever took were right across the border in Oklahoma, and I hope I don't go home with another butt beating. That's my one goal tonight. So I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and the people in Alcoholics Anonymous are the absolute finest people I have ever met in my life, and it's never my intention to step on anybody or scald anybody in any form or fashion. I just you know, it's funny in the hospital, you know, I mean, I've got this reputation of being pretty hard ass, you know, I'm always in somebody's face, you know, and it's like everybody thinks that's great until it's their ass I'm in, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, Chris, he was a great guy, and now all of a sudden he's not so great of a guy. And so if I say something that makes you a little uncomfortable, my intention is hopefully to give you some stuff to think about, just to consider. I'm 16 years sober, and there's still times in meetings I'll hear something, thank God, that will spur some thought in me. See, I had a spiritual experience 16 years ago, but I don't want to live on this spiritual experience that I had 16 years ago. I want to live on the spiritual experience that I'm having today. So I need some new food. The other book that we talk about sometimes, you know, talks about giving us our bread, our daily bread. I need a daily infusion of a new spiritual experience. And that's the coolest thing I think about Alcoholics Anonymous, is that so many of us, we come in here believing that what this is about is not drinking one stupid day at a time. And that is not what this is about. It is for some people, and if that's your case, so be it. From my perspective, it's about not drinking, yes, but it's also about having continual spiritual experiences and being able to grow in effectiveness and with my relationship with God, with a power greater than myself. And that I think is what it's all about. Where I got sober, where I tried to get sober up in North Texas for years, they hated anybody coming in there talking about God, because they were so afraid that one of the newcomers would leave because we were talking about God. And it still to this day freaks me out when people... My book says that no human power can get me sober. What's going to get me sober? God. Oh, let me see if I can put this together. But we're not supposed to talk about God. So how are we going to do this? We're not. You know, if God drives you out of here, whiskey will drive you back. I don't know what to tell you. I I wonder how many people we've killed over the years walking on eggshells around people that don't want to talk about God. The coolest thing about Alcoholics Anonymous is, when I say the word God, if we got 40 people in here. I don't know how many people we got in here, but we got 40 different concepts of what that power is. Big deal. Cool. Let's go with it. You know, it may be the red road. It may be Buddhism. It may be something else. Who cares? That's the coolest thing. God as we understand it. But just to not talk about God because it's going to make somebody uncomfortable, I think is absolutely asinine. This fellowship, years ago, I'll talk a lot about the archives. I'll talk a lot about the history. This fellowship years ago was nothing but a spiritual program. Nothing but a spiritual program. And of course, thanks again to the treatment centers, we've turned it in the last 30 years, we've turned it into nothing but a junior therapy session. Drives me nuts. And I'm going to hit it hard tonight. I can feel it already. That's one of the problems with the CDs out there. You know, I think the tapers have done a tremendous job passing a message of hope to newcomers coming into the fellowship. I'm a big fan of CDs and listening to other speakers and getting an uplift. And the problem is with the dadgum things is that when you've got them and you're listening to them driving down some country road here in Oklahoma, you know, the speaker's a million miles away and you hear something that you don't like, well, you've got nobody there to discuss it with. You know, you just... It's a grinder. I mean, the roads of Texas are littered with my CDs. That's just the way it is. If you're happy, joyous, and free and working the steps and kicking butt, you follow me? You love what I'm going to say from this podium. If you happen to be at a bad spot tonight sitting in this room, this is going to grind you. This is going to grind you. Because what it's going to sound like I'm doing in all the topics that I'm going to talk about in the next few hours, what it's going to sound like I'm doing is making fun of your issues. Y'all with us? I've got these little buttons. Kara's wearing one of these little buttons, and I've got one on. And I've got some little buttons down here. Issue man, you know, little buttons. And some of you guys need to pick up one of these buttons. And they got this little guy on there, you know, and it's got these little X's on the outside of this little guy. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to see from these talks, and I guess in our meetings too, when we're discussing this, we're trying to talk about. We've spent so much time worried about those issues, and not near enough time worrying about what's going on inside. Our spiritual well-being has got nothing to do with our external world. And yet what Alcoholics Anonymous has become is a place to sit and talk about our external world. And the most controversial thing I'm going to say from the podium, I'm saying right now to get it out of the way. I want to get it out of the way so you can go ahead and get your coffee and get the heck out of here, because you're not going to like what I got to say. I love you, but it's nothing personal. Alcoholics Anonymous is not a dumping ground for your daily problems. I feel so much better having said that. I remember hearing a speaker one night, and I was sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time he was speaking, and it was just a fascinating talk. Because everything he was saying was me, you know. And then right at the very end, he started talking about working the steps. You with me? And of course, I'm in and out of AA for 7 years, not working the steps. Oh, did I mention I wasn't staying sober either? You with me? Chronic relapser. I'm a desire chip picking up fool, buddy. There were periods in that 7 years where my back was sore from being hugged so much. Oh, you know, you'd come every night. You'd come back in. Chris, geez, didn't we just give you a desire chip last night? It's been a tough day. You know, it's like I'm drunk again. You know. Well, how about another desire chip and a whole bunch of hugs and jeez, you know, I'm just, you know. And I remember this guy started talking about the steps, and he explained. He said this one thing, and I've said it on other. He said, we work the steps to get connected to God, you see, and then God takes care of these other things. And I remember I was so incensed by what he said. You see, because I was a Christian and I believed in God. I didn't have any problem believing in God. The problem is there was a huge difference, and I didn't understand it, a difference between believing in God and having access to God. Huge difference. You down with that? And I couldn't understand that. And he chapped me off. And I got up, made a big flurry, got my coat, knocked my coffee over, stormed out of the room. I wanted everybody to know that Chris Raymer was pissed off, because this guy offended me, and it's like, buddy, all I can say in here, guys, don't let the screen door of your arrogance hit you on the ass on the way out. You got me? I mean, we got to understand what we're dealing with here is an absolutely fatal illness, progressive illness called alcoholism and drug addiction. Dig? And if you got it, you're going to die from it if you don't get well, if you don't recover. See, and there's not a lot of ground there to be mincing around your sensitive little feelings. And I got to say it again. I'll say it a dozen times in this evening that we're going to get a chance to share together. There's a bunch of us in this room, and I'm as guilty of it as the next person, who want to spend way too much time tiptoeing around sensitive little feelings. And we're killing them, folks. We're killing them by the thousands out there by doing that. We've been given a message that works. We know it works. There's millions of us sober to prove it. Tons of testimony to show that it works. And yet we are afraid to talk about it. We're not out there on the street, folks, with a big old sandwich board on. Come in, AA meeting, free coffee. We're not soliciting business for Alcoholics Anonymous. We're here as a service. If you're ready to get sober, want to do something about your drinking, we're here for you. If you don't, bye-bye. We've turned into a social group. I think everybody's welcome in these rooms. Welcome. My concern is not we just read the traditions. We read the preamble where it says our primary purpose is to help other alcoholics get sober. Isn't that what we just read? We read the traditions. Y'all see up here? See number 5? Each group has but one primary purpose, carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Read the long form. It says the same thing for the alcoholics. You get a drug addict that wanders into the wrong room in my part of the world, and some guy will snag him quick, jerk him out. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. This is for alcoholics. You with us? Understand it. Singleness of purpose, I'm for it. I understand that. You with me? Nobody has a problem doing that. But we'll have a meeting, and some little old lady will sit over there and talk about her stupid divorce one more time, and nobody will say anything. The absolute arrogance of us. Absolute arrogance of us to think that we can come into a meeting and share anything we want. Freaks me out. My perspective. Y'all understand what that word means? My perspective. It means that you nice lady sitting over there on a chair, you're seeing me one way. You can probably see I trimmed these little nose hairs up here. I'm sitting so high up here. I'm glad I did now, Because from your perspective, you can see right up my little nose here. My perspective right now, I can see right down on top of your head. You with us? Perspective. It's like some of you cats in this room are the real McCoy. You're textbook alcoholics. And you're going to understand where I'm coming from. You ever tried to do an AA? Can you imagine me doing an AA talk in front of a Rotary bunch? Good morning. Hope you enjoyed your pancakes. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. And then I'm going to give them this long line, tell them about my eating out of dumpsters in Houston, Texas. And I'm going to talk about all the businesses I bankrupted. I'm going to talk about all this crazy stuff. And I'm going to watch about 85% of those people get real uncomfortable and want to leave. And there's about 15% that are going to be sitting on the edge of the seat because they can identify with what I'm saying. You with me? Alcoholic can identify with another alcoholic. That's why singleness of purpose is so important. That's why my brothers and sisters in Cocaine Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous do such a great job with the drug addicts, because they can identify with where those cats are coming from. Y'all with us? All right. My perspective is this. Having come in and out of this fellowship for so long, trying to get well, and couldn't get well. Now, this is my story. I'm sticking to it. This is my experience. This is what I'm trying to share with you. Some of you guys walked into an AA meeting, loved it, got sober, and have been sober ever since. You're not going to identify with what I'm saying. My experience was I was in and out of a lot of dadgum rooms trying to get well and couldn't, because nobody would tell me how to get well. We had the steps and the traditions on the wall. Somebody read how it worked, but there wasn't a big book in the place. And there was certainly nobody sponsoring anybody in those groups that I was trying to get sober in. That's my story. And it's the story of a lot of people that come through the hospitals where I work. The treatment centers where I work, we get about 1,000 patients through there a year. Geez, it's a big place. Most of these cats have been in AA before. Most of those places, I mean, the cats that had gone to these AA meetings had not been able to stay sober for some of the same reasons that I couldn't get sober, because nobody would get off dead center and talk about the solution. That's all I'm trying to get you guys to see. We assume that everybody's going to get sober sooner or later. That is so wrong, it's not even funny. There's not a week goes by that we don't transfer some of our patients to the state hospital because they're never going to get well. Y'all understand? Wet brain? They have drank themselves to death. They're still alive. Some of these little crack addicts we see coming through there just burned out. They're not coming back. Again, I think there's some arrogance in us to sit here and think, well, when they've had enough, they'll come in. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That's what we're going to talk about today. I want to make sure we get clear here too. Anything I'm saying here, I'm not a I'm a big book thumper, but I believe there's probably a gazillion ways to work these steps. I'm not even going to go there today with any of you. Bless your hearts. I think the steps can be worked in any form or fashion that you want to work them. This 12 and 12 adds a lot of cool stuff to the steps, and you know, well, the only thing that I would say is that the book is crystal clear about working the steps rapidly. The steps were never intended to be worked over a long period of time. If you've been sober for a few years and you want to take your time and kind of work through them and take a step a month and focus in on it, I think that's a great idea. But initially going in the door, when somebody walks through the door still smelling a crack pipe and been drinking all day long, the last thing they need is somebody to tell them to take their time. Because that's not what this book says. You see, because guys, friends, they don't have time. They just don't have time. They need to get well quick. We need to get them to God quick, and that's our job in Alcoholics Anonymous, is to help the newcomer get this thing as quick as possible. Joe and Charlie, you know, when they talk, they've got a new book out there about working with others. One of the paragraphs in it, it's the greatest. It's like making a cake. You know, what are you guys going to do? You're going to put the eggs in now, and then 2 months later go ahead and add the milk, and then 6 months later go ahead and add the flour, and you know what I'm saying? But another year, go ahead and put it in the oven. What kind of cake are you going to get? You know. And I think he makes a great point. The steps were intended to be worked rapidly. That's where some of us have had such dynamic spiritual experiences, because we worked through this stuff. Boom. I mean, Bill Wilson was on his 9th day in detox, for heaven's sakes, working the steps out of detox when he had his barn-burning spiritual experience. Dr. Bob, a little over 2 weeks to finish all 12 steps, making his amends. The day he took his last drink, he was out making amends. You with us? But we got cats sitting in these meetings telling the newcomer to take their time to work the steps. Where does that crap come from? Because you were able to take your time to work the steps, you assume that the other person's got time to take their time. Let's get another thing real clear before we get into this too dang far. Alcoholics Anonymous has got a lot of people in it. Let me get something to drink here. Is this the Zima? Yeah. I wonder what that tastes like, Zima. They didn't have that when all right, it just looks so good on the ads. Okay. A lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, you walk into a room like this and you assume that we're all drunks in this room. But I'm going to tell you something. For the newcomer that's sitting in this room, that's an assumption that'll get you dead. You got to be careful what you're assuming in these fellowships. You assume that the cat sitting in the room is an alcoholic just like you, the real alcoholic. And we're going to talk about that. What is a real alcoholic? But the truth is, the cat sitting next to you, maybe he's just a hard drinker. Big Book spends pages talking about it. On page 20 and 21, it separates moderate drinkers, hard drinkers. But what about the real alcoholic? What about the person on page 21? I got little stickers at work with T-shirts we wear. I'm the person on page 21. I'll send you one if you want. And I wear it. Don't wear it into Walmart. For heaven, every fool in the place will come up and say, "What's on page 21?" And then you're going to have to explain, buddy. Everybody come up and ask you, "What's on page 21?" I'm the person on page 21. I'm the real alcoholic. But I'm sitting in meetings with people that got jammed into treatment because they had a little DWI, or they got a little trouble at home, and they came to AA. You with us? Let's qualify now. Let's qualify. What does it mean to be an alcoholic? See, because these cats, although they're quite well-meaning, I don't think anybody in AA intentionally ever tries to hurt anybody. I don't think for a second. But inadvertently, because that person is not the real alcoholic, the stuff coming out of his mouth may kill the real alcoholic. It drives you guys crazy. I just look on some of your faces. That makes you so uncomfortable. Well, if you say you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic. God dang, guys, I can call myself a duck. It doesn't mean I'm a duck. You can call yourself anything you want. I'm just saying, are you willing to base your life on some crap coming out of somebody's mouth that's calling themselves an alcoholic? And you can't verify it with what's in the Big Book. It's where we get this, take your time to work the step stuff. What's that about? Here's what it said. I'm going to read a couple of little things in here. Some of you guys, if you got a book, you can read along. If not, don't worry about it. Page 34 in this. I love these big clocks in here too. This is great. This will get them long-winded speakers real uncomfortable, huh? That's a big trend. You know, I speak all over the country and other countries, and I get a chance to do this a lot. You know, and it's like the big trend now for the circuit speakers is to talk for almost 2 hours. You know, it's like unbelievable. You get an alcoholic to sit for an hour, it's pretty soon. And look at all you guys smoking in here. This is absolutely re-energized my opinion of Alcoholics Anonymous. We got all of these smokers sitting in here smoking. You go get them, guys. This is good. Down in Texas now, they got all the clubs are practically all of them are non-smoking. I mean, you start to light up a cigarette, and they'd rather you go get drunk. You know. Oh, shoot. This is one of the best paragraphs. And when I finally got sober in 1987, after years in and out of the fellowship, this guy opened this. The first night I got back in, he opened this page to me and showed me this. He says, middle paragraph, it says, for those who are unable to drink moderately, the question is how to stop altogether. We're assuming, of course, that the reader desires to stop. Stop. Now, guys, you know that's an assumption, isn't it? But we got a lot of cats coming into this fellowship. They got no more intention of stopping than the man in the moon. They want the heat to go away. They want that blowtorch to move back from their butt just enough so they can move around a little bit. And then they're going to go right back and do it again. I'm with it. I'm down with it. You bop till you drop. But let's don't assume anything, okay? That's, I think, one of the main things that a sponsor needs to do when he first gets tangled up with a new sponsee. You better qualify that cat. That's your responsibility as a sponsor, is to qualify that cat. None of the, I go up to you and say, would you sponsor me? And you say, yes, I'll sponsor you. Call me tomorrow. It's like, and I'm sitting there like a deer in the headlights like, what the hell just happened here? Call me tomorrow? Okay, I will. I'm going to go have a drink now, but I'll call you tomorrow. Let's find out. Let's qualify these cats. Let's find out if they even need to be here. Y'all with us? The book is asking us whether such a person, one of the best lines in the book, whether such a person can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he's going to drink or not. Takes my breath. Did you get it? Let me read it again. Whether such a person, this person we're talking to, can quit upon a non-spiritual basis depends upon the extent to which he has already lost the power to choose whether he's going to drink or not. This is the baffling feature of alcoholism as we know it. This utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. Now that's a yes or no question right there, buddy. Can you stop on your own power? First step, guys, look at it. Where am I at? Look at it. It says that our lives, says we were powerless over alcohol, their lives have become unmanageable. My question to you is a newcomer coming in the door, wanting me to sponsor you. My question to you, first out of the bag, are you powerless over alcohol? Let's find out. Because here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit down and bust your butt and spend some time with this cat and get him working through the steps. And about the time you get to that old fourth step, you with us? They're going to crap out. And you're going to have wasted all of that time on somebody that wasn't even powerless to begin with. If they still think they can stop on their own power, they don't need God to do it. They can do it on their own. You with us? That comes from this belief that AA is some kind of a self-help program. If I just go to enough meetings, everything's going to be okay. Ridiculous. That's where where did this term meeting makers make it come from? We do it in treatment all the time. 90 meetings in 90 days. Some of you guys, you're products of that. You went to 90 meetings in 90 days, that's great. Listen, I need to tell you, I went to 120 meetings in 90 days one time and drank. It's got nothing to do with going to me. It's like me going to the stupid gym and sitting out in the lobby and reading a magazine. At the end of 6 months, I'm going to look just like this. Pretty pathetic, you know? Pretty pathetic. If I want to get well, there's certain things I got to do. And that means to get off my butt and go in there and sweat a little bit. Guys, getting sober is a bear. Getting sober is tough. And it takes some work. The work is the 12 steps. We're going to finish the work. You're going to have a guaranteed spiritual experience. The obsession to drink and drugs is going to leave you, and you're going to be well. It's going to be a cool thing to watch. But we tell newcomers, we imply that if they'll just keep coming to these meetings, everything's going to be okay. That is absolute rubbish. Rubbish. Feel better saying that too. Can you stop? Can you stop? Bottom page 25. There's dozens of these pages. If I'd had time, I'd mark them down, but I just didn't. There's page after page of questions. Bottom page 25, it says, if, any of you guys got your books, you know, mark them. If, question mark, you are seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there's no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible, and if we had passed into the region from where there was no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. The other was to accept spiritual help. You can't make any headway with a newcomer, folks, until you get this cleared up. Are you understanding that your hope must come from spiritual guidance? Or do you still think that this is some kind of a self-help program and you're going to come in here and everything's going to be okay? When the testimony of thousands of us show that that is not the truth. Bill Wilson's asking us to ask the newcomer, buddy, are you really one of us? Have you lost the power to choose whether you're going to do this or not? 20 and 21, it asks you point blank. It spends the first 23 pages talking about the physical allergy. When you put alcohol in your body, can you guarantee me how much you're going to drink every time? Have you caught yourself trying to control it? See, normal drinkers don't control it. Even hard drinkers don't control it. Hard drinkers, they decide to go out and get ripped, they go out and get ripped. It's no big deal. What do? No, that's enough. You know, you follow me? You're just, it's the line in the great line in the book that says there's a great obsession of every abnormal drinker to be able to control and enjoy his drinking. I can control it. You put enough pressure on me, give me a good-looking woman that doesn't want me to drink, or a job that doesn't want me to drink, and I'll control it for short periods of time. Guys, I was in the food business for years. I was a professional chef for years. I had to control it. But there were times that I intended to control it, intended to drink just a couple, and ended up drinking half a Texas. Y'all with us? Clear indication that there's a physical thing going on with us that's not right. Alcoholism and drug addiction, folks, I've said this on a gazillion CDs. Alcoholism and drug addiction is not causal. There's nothing out there causing it. It's one of the most confusing things because the treatment centers want us to believe that it is causal, that there's something out there causing it. If something out there caused you to drink, you with us? Poverty, the molestation, something, Vietnam, some issue out there. If that's what caused you to drink, you're not one of us. You need to look close at that. Alcoholism and drug addiction is genetic. It's genetic, it's genetic, it's genetic. I'm wired different than normal drinkers or hard drinkers. There's a huge difference, guys, between an alcohol or drug abuser and an alcoholic. You with us? A lot of people drink abusively, but given sufficient reason, the book says, they can stop. They'll do some good therapy, work through the issue, come out the other side, and never have a problem with it again. They can drink socially. They're just good eggs. You with us? Or not drink at all. But the real alcoholic will not be able to stop and stay stopped without spiritual intervention. That is a fact. The physical piece is pretty easy for most people to understand. How do we treat the physical piece? We detox your butt. Y'all understand that? We throw you in detox, we get you cleaned up, get the stuff out of your system, no more phenomenal craving kicks in. You are well in that physical piece. And it won't be triggered again until you put the first one back in your body. Y'all with us? That's why I get crazy with the old timers in the meetings. Old timers, new to everybody that says it. They want to come back and say, well, if you don't drink the first one, you won't get drunk. That's Nancy Reagan's crap. Just say no. No. I hope I get to meet her before she dies. So I can tell her she's a little off page here. Not being disrespectful to the lady, but I'm saying she doesn't understand. She's not one of us. If you don't drink the first one, you won't get drunk. It's like me. It's like, God, no shit. I didn't think of that. Why didn't I think? It's like a V8 moment. It's like, God, I could. This is the first one that always gets. You're right. Guys, then we spend the next 20 pages, the book explains to us why we can't not put the first one back in our bodies. That's what alcoholism and drug addiction is. The utter inability to leave the stuff alone, no matter how great the necessity or the wish. We got people coming into the hospital, and the moms and dads will come in and if it just gets bad enough, we keep hoping he'll quit. And we're laughing, but because we all understand, it will never get bad enough for us to quit. I've quit, guys. I'm a quitting fool. I'm great at quitting. I'm just a better starter. I get cranked up. I can stop for long periods of time. It drives me crazy when I talk to people and the family members of us, and they don't understand that. I get stuff coming out of their mouth. The Al-Anon ladies, the people that are not in the fellowship, they say, well, I guess he just doesn't love us. Okay, how can you... I got to tell you guys, there were times when I wanted to stop and told you I was going to stop, but in the back of my mind, I knew I was going to drink again anyway, and it's just no big deal. I know, I understand stuff coming out of my mouth. I've said it 1,000 times. But guys, in my 20 years of drinking and drugging, there were some times that I really, really wanted to stop. There were some times that I needed to stop. There were times that I got on my knees in front of a wife and begged her forgiveness and told her that I would never, ever drink or drug again. And meant it. I would have fought you if you'd have said that I would ever go back on my word. Guys, turn to page 24 if you got your little books. I got some little handouts here later on while we're eating greasy chicken. You guys can pick up some of these little handouts. Some of these little handouts are good. I didn't bring a lot, but I brought some. You guys can make copies, but I didn't figure there was this many drunks in Oklahoma altogether, much less in Ponca City, for heaven's sake. On page 24, there's another little bullet that people for 7 years in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous conveniently never showed me. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory and suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. You with us? It means that I can't choose whether I'm going to drink or not. That's what alcoholism is. If we take this piece out, then we don't have a disease. What we've got, again, is a behavioral problem. See? But because of the genetic, because of the way I'm built, because alcohol does different things in me than it does in normal people, I can't remember the consequences of even a week or a month ago. That's why you get these guys. I'm sure there's guys. How many of you guys in this room ever had a DWI? Did you drink after that? Absolutely. Why? Do you think the judge looking down over his little glasses at you like this, do you think he was joking with you when he said he was going to put you in jail if you drank again? I mean, I don't know about Oklahoma, but the prison system in Texas is full, chock full of people there for alcohol and drug offenses. You know, with us? What, just misbehaving little children? No, we believed them. We made a commitment we were going to stop. We didn't have the power to pull it off. That's what alcoholism is. And that's what the newcomer needs to see. And that's what your families need to see. I'm not letting you off the hook. Alcoholics Anonymous gives us this thing called responsibility. I know I have some choices, but whether I'm going to drink or not is not one of them. I have a choice whether to go to meetings, to participate, to get involved in service work. I have a choice on a daily basis to pray and meditate, to work with other alcoholics and addicts. I got lots of choices. If I make the wrong choices there, the mental obsession will return, the spiritual malady will come back at full force, and I will die. I will go back out and drink. I heard a guy in a meeting 2 weeks ago in my own home group. Bill Coots got over 20 years of sobriety. One of the nicest guys in the world. I love him to death. He sat right in a meeting and said that everybody that relapsed chose to relapse. Couldn't believe it. I spilled my coffee, almost peed my pants. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And I had to make a decision in that meeting whether or not to speak up and say something. Well, I don't believe in crosstalk in a meeting, but I had to share what this book told me. If you can choose not to do it, then do it. But if your experience shows you that you've tried to not do it and been unable to make it stick, maybe you're one of us. That's what you guys need to see. Chriso and I were talking on the way over here about a friend of ours I'd met in Lake Charles when I spoke over there, I don't know, years ago. It's when I first met Chris. And this was a good kid, good tall, strapping, handsome man. And 18 months sober, he went out in the back and shot himself. Now, he was not drunk, but he was dying of alcoholism. Alcoholism will kill you, drunk or sober. And that's what we don't talk about in our meetings. We just think because we've got one stupid day at a time, we're sober today, I guess I'm doing good. That is not the case. How many of you guys have ever sat in sobriety absolutely dying inside? I mean, let the record show all the hands are up. I mean, that come on, guys. That's not just life. That's the thing called the spiritual malady, the third piece of our legacy here. The body, mind, and spirit. The sickened spirit can come back at any time if we're not doing the things necessary. That's why I couldn't stay sober going to meetings. Just going to meetings? Because meetings don't treat my spiritual malady. The steps treat my spiritual malady. In the United States today, it's just rampant. We see it in the treatment center all the time. How do we want to treat it? I don't feel good. What's wrong? I'm irritable. I'm restless. I'm discontent. I'm depressed. Oh, listen, I found this doctor, and listen, he's got these antidepressants that'll just do wonders for you. Oh, great. Not knocking antidepressants. If you need them, bop till you drop. That's an outside issue. I'm not going to go there. I'm saying we keep trying to treat with a pill what God can treat naturally. But let's see the decision. Let me see. Get on my knees with some other guys and do a third step prayer. Do a little chicken shit 3-column inventory. Look at some stuff I don't want to look at. Go make some amends to some people I would really rather forget they lived. You'll follow me? Do some prayer and meditation on a daily basis. And let me see, what was that other one? Oh, get off my butt and go greet the newcomer. Or open a pill bottle. It's a no-brainer. Go get the pill. And if the doctor prescribed the wrong pill that's loaded with benzos, you will be loaded in short order. You'll be back in here picking up another Desire chip, not having a clue what happened to you. Phenomenal craving can be triggered by a multitude of things out there. Over-the-counter medication, NyQuil, you know, with it. I was sponsoring a guy one time, and I saw him in Kroger, and he looked a little shifty, and I came up behind him in the express line, and he sat down there like that, and I knew he'd been sick and doing this stuff all, you know, he'd got a cold from hell, you know, and I didn't even want to sit next to him in the meetings, he was so sick. But he's in the Kroger getting his stuff, and he's got 3 bottles of NyQuil sitting on a conveyor belt going in. I said, "Oh, buddy, what's up?" "Oh, this cold, it's kicking my ass." I said, "Yeah, it's great. 3 bottles of NyQuil. Tomorrow, pick up another Desire chip." "No, I'm 30 days sober." "No, you're not. 3 bottles of NyQuil." What are we trying to treat? What's NyQuil? It's alcohol. You drink that stuff, the phenomenal craving kicks in, and you're off to the races. I had a friend of mine that was triggered with athlete's foot spray. The alcohol in the athlete's foot spray, spraying it on it, and it absorbed through his toes. His toes got him loaded. No kidding. 2 days later, this guy is ripped out of his gourd. We couldn't figure out what the problem was. He starts, backing up what he'd been doing. That's what he had been doing. Look at the back of the label. First ingredient in it, alcohol. Guys, I'm not addicted. You'll need to understand. I'm not addicted to Pearl Light. I'm addicted to the alcohol that's in Pearl Light. It's unbelievable, you know? We think as long as we stay away from the whiskey, we're okay. This is a part of the stuff that sponsorship is about, helping the newcomer get to see all of these little pitfalls that are waiting for them when they walk off out of these rooms. It's easy to stay sober in here for most of us. It's out there that gets to be a little dicey. Don't you know? Let me give you a little... I grew up in the hill country. I'm going to give you a little Reader's Digest condensed of... because I'm going to run out of time. I want to let you know kind of where I came from. My dad was an alcoholic. He was a printer and a craftsman, one of the most talented men I'd ever known in my life. And he was a good egg. He was a periodic drunk. He'd stay sober for long periods of time and then twist and be gone for a while and come back and get sober again, lose all that weight. And, you all know the kind. They're heartbreaking to watch. And I got an identical twin brother, and he and I both caught the genetic bullet. We were both alcoholic. My little sister was a year younger than me, has never, ever had a problem with alcohol. In fact, she's our sideshow, our entertainment at Christmas, at the holidays when we get to see her, because she'll sit down with a little glass of wine, and be drinking it, and she drives us crazy, the way she drinks. It's disgusting to watch. I mean, she'll be messing with a drink, stirring it, Lisa, you going to drink that or not? It's like... I've said it a million times from the podium. She says, no, they made it a little too strong. And she just slid it across. And we're spitting coffee everywhere. It's like too... My mom's the best. She'll drink a glass of white wine every night at 5 o'clock. In 4 minutes, she'll open a glass, she'll have a little glass of white wine, unless the wine tastes a little funky. Y'all with us? Sometimes people give her wine, she says, "Lois, what's wrong with your wine? You're not drinking tonight." And she says, it just tastes a little off. She'll slide it over. A little off? I don't care if there's a dead roach floating in it. I don't. I will flip him out and drink it. It doesn't make any difference. We're drinking Mad Dog 2020, right? What is it? What is that if it's not off? I don't know what to say. I mean, that stuff is... you can hallucinate on that crap. We're not drinking it because we like the taste. Nothing goes down like a good glass of Mad Dog 2020. Unbelievable. If you can keep it down, it'll get you downtown quick. That's all I know. It tastes like crap. I left the hill country in about 72, 73, went to Houston, Texas, and was going to be an apprentice in a food business. I got a job at a big hotel. Had a great reference and hooked this job working with Europeans in Houston, and it was a cool thing for me to get a chance to do that. And I was quite successful doing it, steady drinking, with us in Houston. And Houston, after a couple of years, got to be too much for me. Traffic, craziness, and I'm drinking a lot. And I decided I'm going to move to Austin, Texas. I'm going to get back to, home of the armadillo and all that, And I had in the back of my mind, because the therapist had been talking to me about the stress at this other job, and I'm going to get over in this other job, and everything's going to get a little bit better. Maybe I won't have to drink so much. And so I went to Austin, Texas, and almost died in Austin, drinking and drugging, doing all the crazy stuff we do. And had a great job there, and for a couple of years, and went to Atlanta, Georgia. Had to get out of Texas. After a while, you understand that everybody in Texas is an alcoholic. They're all drunks. And the women are anything but sociable. I got to tell you, the word frigid comes to mind. So I go to Atlanta looking for something a bit looser, and I'm young and can go anywhere I want. So what the heck? And I got this great job at a hotel there, and got homesick after a year or so there in Atlanta, and came back. That's when I went up to Wichita Falls, up in Vernon, Texas, and stayed there for a while, and for my butt beatings in Oklahoma, and I just continued to drink, and I moved back to Houston a few times. I went back to my hometown of Kerrville, and was in Dallas a couple of times. I'm a big geographical guy. I'm convinced that if I can just move to the right spot, everything's going to be okay. My idea was if I could get my life. And that's what all these. I was 10 years in therapy, folks, trying to get my ducks in a row. Y'all understand that? Do they talk like that in Oklahoma? Is that one of those? My ducks. You know what that means? I say that up in New York, and they just look, ducks in a row. What is he talking about? If I can get the woman, the car with the spare, y'all dig? The car, the job, get all the little stuff lined up. Bank account, everything cool, then the pressure will come off of me, and I can drink socially, perhaps do a bit of cocaine on occasion, at special occasions, like Tuesday, and everything's going to be okay, And I spent years, guys, 20 years in and out, trying to get everything lined out. And see, here's the problem, none of that worked. Y'all with us? And it drives me crazy again. I do this, I think, on every tape I've ever done, every podium I've ever spoke from. It was great down in Iceland doing this because I didn't think they could understand what I was saying, but they did. Trust me. How many of you guys drank a drug when you had lots of money? Raise your hand. Just amuse me. How many of you drank a drug when you had no money? Same one. How many drank a drug when you had a great job? Crappy job. Same hand. How many when you had a great relationship with somebody you really loved? Good relationship. How many when you dating Satan's sister? Again. Or brother. I know, Carrie. Keep them up, baby. Keep them up. Yeah. Guys, you got to get this. If you look at this thing as an open deal. Guys, I didn't have to have some special drama going on in my life to drink. I drank because it was overcast. I drank because it was clear. I drank because I had I had a guy in San Diego one time. He said, Chris, I finally found the perfect trigger. It covered. I said, what is it? He said, it's consciousness. That's the first thing they do when you go to treatment. List your triggers. List the things that are causing you to drink. I don't have that much paper. Could I just list the things that don't cause me to drink? Little bunny rabbits, they don't cause me to drink. I end up I got married in Houston for the first time, and we moved out of Houston, moved to Denton, Texas. I got a job at a country club there. It turned out the chef there was a great drunk, just like me, and also was a cocaine dealer, and we hit it off great. And I almost died up there, and had a little brush with the law and a little domestic disturbance, and I am certainly not, unless I'm in Oklahoma, I'm not violent at all, but the cops came, and anyway, because of the cops coming that night in this altercation, I I ended up getting put in, y'all know what it means when you get put in the system. It means that my probation officer says you need to go see this therapist, this counselor. And it was a licensed chemical dependency counselor. And she looked at my chart. And she looked at this chart, and she looked at me, and she said, Chris, I've read this chart. She says, you're the sickest buckaroo I've ever seen in my life. He says, I didn't know there was this. I had to go to the back to the book and look up some of these diagnoses that you've been diagnosed with. Because I didn't even understand what the doctors were trying to explain. See, that's what I'd been doing. You go to a doctor, they'll find something wrong with you. I've been diagnosed with every depressive disorder known to man. Bipolar, manic depressive. At the time of that conflict, I was taking handfuls of pills every day, prescribed by doctors, just to stay normal. I have alcoholism, and I am suffering from a thing called the spiritual malady. And the symptoms of the spiritual malady are this: irritable, restless, discontent, depressed, bored, anxious, no sense of direction. You with us? They call it ADD today. You know what I'm saying? They can medicate that too. For me, it was just no sense of direction. Is what the book talks about, you know? I had one more little bit. There's a little thing in there now we talk a lot about in treatments called codependency. The book talks about, the 12 and 12 talks a lot about this constant need of approval for you. Y'all with us? It says on page 62, selfish and self-centeredness is the root of my problems. And if the world ain't going my way, I'm pissed. I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it? I'm mad at the world because it ain't going the way. I never make enough money. The woman's never good looking enough. The job's never good enough. It's a no-win situation. Guys, that's what the book describes as the spiritual malady, and that's what needs to be treated. And this lady told me that. She said, Chris, you need to get your butt to AA. Period. Close the case. And I did. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'd like to tell you my experience was great. I've already told you. I spent 7 years in and out of those rooms. I walked up the door. This AA meeting, this first AA meeting I went to, I don't talk about this much, but bless their hearts, you know, it was downtown Denton, Texas, and it was up these steps, you know, these big long steps, and no, I don't know if there were 12 steps. You always want to ask me that question. And I walked up these steps. It was pitch dark. You're walking. I see a light bulb back up on the top. I knew it was there. I checked the address, newspaper clipping, you know, and I looked up there. And this is it. And I walked up these creaky steps. You could smell the bugs, roaches in there, and I was like, geez, what am I doing? I don't even drink in places like this, you know. And here I am walking up to this A&A meeting, you know. And I walk up, and there's this old geezer, and he's in an easy chair, and he's laying back. I thought he was dead. You know, I walked in. He says, hi. He scared me. It was dark. The place is pitch dark except for this one bulb hanging down. It's like, what is this? And my eyes get accustomed to the light, and I can see there's 4 or 5 other people in the room. Literally. And the guy says, welcome. And I said, hi, my name's Chris Raymer. He said, do you have a problem with alcohol? And I said, I hope to kiss a pig. I was drunk then. You with me? Yes. Welcome. Have a seat. And then we proceeded to talk about, one of the ladies had a husband that was having some trouble with drinking, so we spent the time talking about her husband and the problems he was having at the job and stuff. And, you know, I left that meeting, walked out, back down, got to my truck. Damn, what was that? Got my quart of beer, went home. Not a book in a place. But we sure helped that lady with her husband. AA's not here to help you with your husband. AA's here to help you get well. I spent 7 years in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, folks, listening to people talk about everything else under the sun except what we were supposed to be talking about. People get cranky when I talk about this. They get cranky. They say, Chris, you just weren't ready. You just weren't ready. We still do it in our AA meetings today. We sit there and the newcomer having trouble staying sober. He's just not ready. He's just not. How do you know? Before we say that, let's make sure at least that somebody sat down with him and qualified him and talked to him about the steps. That's what good sponsorship is. But just to see a newcomer come in, sit in the meeting and leave and assume that he just doesn't want it, I think it's just downright disrespectful. I wanted it. Nobody was going to tell me how to get sober. Nobody had time. We were too busy trying to solve the problems of the world. Our history books have shown us exactly where that led. Washingtonians, buddies, I'm going to tell you something. Those guys at one time had close to 200,000 drunks sober at the turn of the century. Oxford movement had more than that sober in the Oxford movement that Bill Wilson then stole the initial 6 steps from. It was a cool deal. They all went by the wayside because we got so busy worried about everything else under the sun except what we were supposed to be worried about, which was how to help a drunk get well. Singleness of purpose one more time. In 1987, that wife's gone, exited stage left. I came home drunk after another promise, and she had enough, and she split, and she should have. Bless her. She's doing well in Houston, Texas today. Think of her often. Was able to finally make amends to her years later. I'm working for my twin brother in Louisville, Texas. We own a big book bindery up there, and he hired me to work in the back. I was an accredited chef. I could make a lot of money. I could do a lot of cool things, but I couldn't take the hours anymore because of the drinking, and I couldn't hold a knife. My hands were shaking too bad, and I drove home one night in November. Some of y'all have heard me talk about this, and I picked up a stack of return checks out of the mailbox and sat in my little cold apartment in Louisville, Texas, with no furniture and no woman and no money, and just had all the fun I could have. You know, I was so done with life. You know, it's like so many of y'all have been to that spot. You know, it's the book calls it the jumping off spot. You know, you're gonna do something or you're not. You know, but you can't keep living in this condition with the depression and knowing I'm 35 years old and I know I'm never going to have any money and I'm never going to have any relationships in my life, and it's just always going to be this waking up in the morning full of fear and going to bed at night full of fear. It's like you wake up in the morning and there's this guy standing again and he says, "Hey, my name is Fear and I'm going to drive your ass all day long." And that's exactly what I was doing. And it's like this is all internal stuff. Nothing outside's going on. It's alcoholism in the latter stages of it, and it's a terrible place to be. And I went to the medicine cabinet without much fanfare, no long suicide note, no nothing. I took a bottle of pills and a bottle of booze and tried to commit suicide. I did not want to die. I did want to stop feeling the way I was feeling. I heard a voice that night that said, "Chris, don't do it, go back to AA." Maybe it was the pills kicking in. Maybe it was the guy next door and his vacuum cleaner. I don't have a clue what I heard. But I heard a voice that said, "Chris, don't do it, go back to AA." Clear as a bell. I argued with that voice. Why do I want to go back to those meetings? All they do is sit around and whine about their problems and tell their stupid war stories, and I cannot, what's the point? "Chris, don't do it, go back to AA." Next day, I went to a doctor to help with the detox. Didn't have any money, couldn't go to treatment. All gone. I walked back into a meeting. I knew where it was because a guy in AA had showed me one time where it was. It was close to the house in Louisville. And I drove up the back and sat in the truck and again argued with myself about walking into those rooms. I'm sitting there, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous. Jeez. I mean, how lame can this get, you know? I mean, I had no choice. I had no place else to go. If there had been another doctor that would have prescribed anything for me, if there had been one more dope dealer that would have afforded me credit, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if I'd had another avenue, I'd have taken it. Walked back in the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was one of those long shod rooms, you know, where everybody was smoking and the ceiling's lowering as you taught, you know, it's just, you know, it's good. And then I walked in and they were all laughing and joking, and I knew they were laughing at me. And I was so self-conscious, and I remember little old girls pulled me and set me down in a chair and said, sit down, just stay through the meeting, because I was backing out. I walked in and backed out. Y'all understand that? And that's why I think it's so important when we see the newcomer come in that you don't sit there and finish your domino game before you get your ass up and go work, help the guy. You do it now, because they may not stay. And that girl set me down, and there was a bunch of guys in there, and they'd all seen me up in North Texas, and they started talking to me about recovery. They started talking to me about the cool things that could happen as a result of working the steps. That was the topic of the meeting. They didn't have any of this open discussion crap like who's got the problem. We're going to talk about that in the second hour. And y'all want to stick around for that? We didn't do that night. They said, Chris, we're not going to do that. Says what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room, and I want everybody that wants to share, I want you to share some miracles that are taking place in your life as a result of working the steps. As a result of the spiritual experience that you've had in AA, I want you to share some hope with Chris. You with us? It freaked me out. I sat there and listened, and buddy, I got to tell you something. There was no hymn singing. There was no Bible thumping. There was no soul saving. They went around the room and they talked about stuff that I could sink my teeth into, that I could They didn't expect me to come up where they were, years sober, spiritually fit. They came down to me, scared to death, self-conscious, physically dying. And they came down and they talked about getting your health back. One guy talked about getting his credit cards back. Guys, I hadn't had credit cards in years. Trying to live in this world today without a credit card. They went around the room and they talked about buying a house, about getting some transportation, getting a cool car. One guy talked about his kids coming back and staying with him and the rebuilt relationships. And I got to tell you something. Nobody got long-winded. They all just went around the room and they all shared a couple of minutes, little vignette of how their life had changed as a result of working the steps. And that night after the meeting, they said, Chris, do you want to stay sober the rest of your life? Are you willing to stop drinking for good and for all? I remember saying, on every talk I've ever done, I say this because I think it's an important point to make out. I said, well, one day at a time, and they got their coffee and left the room. See, because one day at a time is taken out of context in this book. This book asked me to ask the newcomer, are you ready to stop for good? Because if you just want to stop today, go drink. If that's all the commitment that you're going to put into this, do I stay sober for eternity? No. I understand I have a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. I understand that I have a gift from God today. Tomorrow may be a different story. I understand that, folks. But the book is crystal clear. Remember when I introduced myself as Chris Raymer, I'm a recovered alcoholic? That's what this book talks about. It talks about being a recovered alcoholic. We sit in our meetings today and listen to people talk about, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Why don't you finish the steps? And then you can recover, and then everything's going to be okay. This program was never intended for us to come in here and be sick the rest of our lives. It intended for us to come in here and get well. What kind of hope are we going to share with the newcomer? What kind of hope do we share with the newcomer when we talk to... Come on, guys. I've been around Oklahoma. We've got them in Texas. You got a poor busted up black guy in there, been smoking crack for days. You got a little Indian walking in, he's drinking himself silly, everything's gone, living in absolute poverty, and we want to come in here and give him, hold up this great carrot. Well, you can stay sober today, but you got to admit you're powerless first. I tell you, some of us have got some real arrogance in us when we want to insist that we want to talk. You know what this powerless word means? It means that we're powerless over alcohol, period. That's it. This book is about power. Power to go do the cool things that we've been talking about. Power to have a changed life. That's the impression that we need to give the newcomer. We need to give them something they can sink their teeth into instead of giving them this idea that this program is somehow this little nebulous thing that some of us are going to get it and some of us are not. That's ridiculous. Everybody that works the steps gets sober. Everybody that finishes these steps have a spiritual experience and they're changed. Nobody ever told me that. That's what this book asked me to tell you as a newcomer. I followed those guys back in the other room and I said, buddy, ask me that question again. Chris, book says in 3 different places in this book, are you ready to stop for good and for all? Yes. Let's go to work. And they sat down and they showed me those pages we talked about. And I was pretty excited. And the next morning they came back and we did a 3rd step prayer. We went to a Saturday morning meeting, 10 o'clock meeting, and then we did a 3rd step prayer, and then we went out and ate some greasy Mexican food. You with us? And then they drugged me back, slightly nauseous on detox meds and, you with us, and Mexican food. And we came back and they gave me a notebook and showed me how to do a 4th step. You with me? 7 years in AA, and I've never worked any of the steps. Whose responsibility is that? Ultimately, mine, yes. But when you've got 15 people and they're telling you to take your time, what are you going to listen to? These guys knew that I was going to die. They knew that if I didn't have a spiritual experience, they knew that if they didn't get me connected to God quick, I wasn't going to make it. Thank God. Thank God I landed in a room full of people that loved me enough to tell me the truth. That's probably not healthy. Wiping your eyes with the same Kleenex you just wiped your nose with. Now I have an eye cold. Okay. I'm working on a 4-step. 2 weeks later, the Friday I came into the fellowship. 2 weeks after that, leaving a meeting on a Friday night, my sponsor's sitting over there, the young guy, he's a year sober, and he's laughing at me. He's laughing. He said, Chris, he says, boy, something's going on with you, isn't it? And I said, buddy, you got to know that something's changing here. I said, you wouldn't believe the stuff I'm seeing in this 4-step. I've been sitting in therapy blaming my mama this whole time. And it ain't got nothing to do with my mama. I've been blaming the man. I've been blaming everybody for keeping me down. The truth of the matter is, it's all been about me. Unbelievable. He got his coffee cup, cheered me. I'll see you in the morning. I went home that night, sat on the tailgate of my truck. Real quick, I'll let you out. We had a parking lot in the apartment complex where I live, and I pulled down the tailgate, and I sat on the tailgate, and I look around, and it's one of those cold November nights up in North Texas, you know, and there's a moon out, and it's crystal clear, and it's colder than hell out there, and I'm breathing. I can see my breath, you know, it's cold, and I'm looking around, and there's a 7-Eleven and a Stop and Go and a liquor store where I got a tab, and my cocaine dealer, outside issue, lives in the same apartment complex where I live. You with me? It's Friday, and I got a pocket full of money, and ain't nobody in my house but a couple of stinky ferrets that are going to tell me anything. You with us? Nobody to stop me. And the deal is, buddy, it hit me like a brick. I don't want to drink. It's not that I'm staying away from it, that I don't want to go near it. It's that I'm surrounded by it. Every reason in the world is there. If I wanted to go use, I could go use. Nobody would know. I don't want to use. I recovered from alcoholism and drug addiction. Sometime in that 2-week period, that obsession was lifted from me. Never returned in 16 years. I have talked to thousands of alcoholics who have had the same experience. Thousands. Unfortunately, I've talked to thousands who have never experienced that. And the only thing I have to go on is, from sponsoring lots of men, the answer's in this book. I got a chance in 1987, at 35 years old, to finally grow up. To finally start getting the cool stuff that God wanted me to have all along. Life's not been perfect in 16 years. Had a 9-year marriage that went crazy. Got remarried, which was probably crazier. She's a sweetheart. She's in the program, and she loves what she's doing in the fellowship, and I love watching her do what she does in the fellowship. I just believe as members of this fellowship, we have a strong responsibility to make sure that the newcomer hears the solution. Whether they pick it up or not, it's beside the point. You know, that farmer hadn't got much to do with whether that field comes up or not. You know, the stuff that's growing, he didn't germinate the plants, he didn't make them come out of the ground, but the farmer had to do the plowing. And the problem in our fellowships today is we don't have enough people plowing. They're sitting on the side pissing and moaning because they ain't getting the harvest, but they're not doing the things necessary to get the harvest. That's the problem that we're going to talk about in the second hour. We're going to hit it pretty hard and quick. Let's go eat some greasy chicken. That'd be great. Thanks,